yours.
Yep.
It's gotta be red.
I got it.
Is that a cigar?
See the little red?
And you have to be at about this length.
I was gonna say, Jesus, you golfing, you smoke.
I got the
I like to open the
drink
town
there, too.
council meeting with the Tiverton School Committee and the Tiverton Budget Committee, Thursday, January 12th, 2023. Please stand for Pledge Allegiance. Right in front of you.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'm calling the school committee to order.
1 second,
Oh,
Jerry,
sorry.
Madam Clerk. I have to do a roll call.
Okay, go ahead. We don't do that
Counselor Janik?
because it's school. We don't take it.
Present. Counselor Edwards? Present. Counselor DiMederos?
Present.
Counselor Milburn? Present. Counselors Burke, Perry, and Edwards, the fifth, are absent.
Yes. You're on.
Because it's school, we don't take attendance, but I'll call the school committee to order. That's it. We're open.
Oh, you don't do a roll call?
We do not do a roll call. We look at each other. Count.
Okay, then I'm going to call the budget committee to order for this joint workshop.
Sure, I'm back. Sometimes I say things that go public, so I have to shut myself off. So welcome to everybody. There are new members here, as well as we have new members. My name's Denise DiMederos. I'm president of town council. And maybe we should just introduce ourselves because some of you don't know us.
It's a good idea.
We'll start with Dennis.
Dennis Milburn, newly elected council member here in Tiverton.
Diane, you want to go?
Diane Farnworth, School Committee.
Mike Dakotas, School Committee.
Jerry Larkin, school committee.
Elaine Pavo, School Committee.
Diana Perdomo, Budget Committee.
Mary Wall, Budget Committee.
Todd Cherry, Budget Committee.
Mike Janik, budget committee.
Dave Perry, Budget Committee.
As you know, this is per charter. We have to have this meeting. This is usually very brief because we don't have our budgets made as of yet.
Denise, who are those people down there next to you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good guess. I know who they are.
Now, Mike Burke says I don't look to the left of me, so I've been trying to look a lot to the left. I didn't look to the right this time. Go ahead, Deb. Sorry.
That's all right.
Joan, you can do it too.
Deb Janik, Town Council.
Jay Edwards, Town Council.
I am never going to live that down for a while. You all do know that. So as far as the town council is concerned, and I'll let Chris talk a little bit too. We have several workshops where we meet with each administrator and go through their budget. Next Thursday, I don't know if you all know this, but we're having a meeting at 7 o'clock at Town Hall with the school committee and also with town administration as to distribution of the casino money and also the APRA money for this year. And as you know, some of you don't know this, but last year, all the casino money went to capital expenses, which the school committee and the town council did not have any capital expenses, except for one maybe, the fire truck, in our budget. So that's what our goal is to try to limit capital expenses and use the casino money for that so that we don't burden the taxpayers with that. I think our biggest thing this year that's going to raise costs for us is trash. And we're all aware. We've been warning people for 5 years now. But our trash pickup is going to increase. So we're trying to think of different ways to deal with that, and that to me is our biggest issue. Chris?
So, she's correct that the biggest issue we're facing will be the trash. So we're going to be working on the pay-as-you-throw program. Was originally intended for landfill closure. There are still some landfill closure expenses that we are going to continue to see, but it would be ideal to use those funds to help offset the cost of bringing that trash to Johnston as an additional cost, and now we have tipping fees for every ton of trash that we dispose of, where we never had those costs before. There are a couple of other things that you should be somewhat cognizant of. Last year's budget, we had $500,000 in bond redemption monies for the TIF bond, so that will no longer, that we will not see that this year. And unfortunately, while we're very hopeful that our SAFER grant would be approved, it was not. So we have about $318,000 of current year expense that's coming out of the general fund that was authorized by the taxpayers at the last financial town referendum. And we're going to have the same amount of monies for the next 2 years that we're going to have to wrestle with as to how to fund those things. So, like everything else, the town has, our town departments are putting together their budgets as we speak. We're collating them now, trying to come up with a plan, but hopefully we'll have something fairly quick to put before the groups that are going to be looking at this so that we can all be on the same page. So.
And you all do have in front of you the new procedure, correct? That was passed by the voters this year. So it's a little different, and we'll be going through it, and we'll see how it works. I think it's promising, though. I really do.
Okay, so thanks. First, I'd like to also introduce Amy Roderick, our Director of Business and Administration and Finance. So there really isn't too much to say right now. We are still in the process of figuring out our, budget request. One thing, if you guys want to update yourself a little bit, our last meeting, so the meeting that we had on January 3rd, was our first kind of official presentation by the superintendent of the possible proposed budget. But you could also look through our agendas and watch the tapes if you wanted to over the last, I would say starting in August, I think. Is that right, Diane? Do you remember exactly when we started the whole kind of June? Okay. It was 6 months of fun. So starting in June, if you look at our agendas, you'll see where we sort of were working in a stepwise fashion, sort of trying to drill down a little bit more to at least understand the evolution and sort of where the budget is right now. But as I said, we'll be having a workshop on February 11th where for the school committee it's a Saturday morning, I think, here, to sort of, again, drill down a little bit more. Right now, I think it's all very preliminary. But probably the most useful thing would be to watch the tape from our committee meeting on January 3rd, just to sort of see where we are right at the moment. And then, again, looking back through our agendas, you can sort of see at which meetings we were sort of discussing different aspects of the budget and sort of where our expenses are right now. So I don't know if anybody else on the school committee wants to say anything or have anything to say. Diane, anything? Mike? Elaine? Okay, so that's kind of where we are. To be seen.
Mike, any questions or concerns?
Well, this is a new process for the Budget Committee, and while I've only been doing it a couple of years, it is a change from what we've done in the past. We will serve as a review when Chris submits a unified budget, and we will look at that and then vet that to be returned to
And make
the
recommendations.
administrator, correct. So while it's not as it was in the past, we still have a role, and we're looking forward to doing that to the best of our abilities.
We will be scheduling workshops also, and I'll make sure Joan sends you all when they'll be, because those are very helpful too, because every department head comes and explains their department really. You really get a real knowledge of what they're doing and what their needs are. So we'll have Joan.
Denise, do you have a schedule of when that's going to happen?
I don't yet, Dave. Somebody just asked me. We have we're in negotiations also with 2 unions, so we're pretty busy, but we're going to try to get it.
What would be nice if we could coordinate with you so that when you do the interview, we could do another one like a week later or maybe
Okay.
that same, I don't know when you could be doing yours, but we do ours on Thursdays.
We do it all different days. It's whenever,
Okay.
uh,
But if you
we've been,
can get some kind of a schedule,
sure.
that
So
way,
it,
you know, that
so.
way we won't be tying them up all over the place and make it
So
one
at my
week,
next meeting, I'll discuss it with the town
Yeah,
council,
when you
and
have
I'll
it.
look at our schedules and see when we can do it.
And-
Counselor Edwards has asked us to do it on our Mondays off,
Yeah,
so we'll see if we can do that
well, that would
also.
work out great if you did it on a Monday, and then we
Yeah.
could
Oh,
grab them
we,
on a
we
Thursday.
have done it on Saturdays, though.
Yeah, and that's fine.
The planning boards are having some Saturday workshops coming up in February that Deb just told me about, so I don't want to interfere with that because those are real important too. So, yeah, after Monday, I'll send something to Mike, or Joan will send something to Mike, and he can send it to all of you. All
And,
right.
Dr. Larkin, your updated progress, is that on some type of a website or that we could take a look at? Or could you send us a copy of it when you're done, every time you have a update,
Your minutes?
your minutes or something?
Our minutes are probably not going to be too helpful to you. They're pretty sparse in general.
Okay.
What I can ask Peter and Amy to do is send you the backup from our, because that's really all it, the only thing that really counts is the backup and the presentation, or the meetings themselves. So those would be the two places, but I can certainly ask them to send the backup from each meeting where we discuss the budget. And
Okay, so we'll make that in the form of a request.
Hmm?
We'll make that in the form of a request from the school committee.
yeah, okay.
And if any of the new members have any questions regarding town issues, you can always call me, or Chris is always pretty available to explain things also, so do not hesitate. You won't be bothering us, because there is a learning curve here, and we understand that.
I
Any
think
other?
the one thing that we all want to do is make sure that we don't go over the cap, because we won't even entertain looking at a budget that goes over the cap.
I don't think we can legally.
As,
Yeah. So I don't think that's,
Can't be done.
it can't be done, right? So let's not try and do it.
well, so it can be done. It
It
just
can
not.
be done, but
It
Well,
can't be done.
so I think what has to happen is
Maybe
you have
in
to
your
actually
world it
get
can be
permission
done.
from the auditor, the state auditor, and the state
and it
auditor
has
is
to
not
be,
going to do
it
it.
has to be the town council that does that.
Yeah,
Makes a request.
there is
Yeah.
a process. No one's,
There
So
is.
our legislators
I don't think
have to be
anybody's
involved?
Yes.
planning on trying to
Yes.
exercise that process.
Good.
Yeah, it's very complicated, and we've never done it before, I don't believe, since I've been here.
We tried.
We did it once?
We tried, yeah. We had a
Well,
cake
I
sale.
was,
First year we did the bonds. to build
oh,
the
I,
schools.
I was on the school committee back then, but I wasn't on the town council.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We do try, we know that going over the cap is not the thing to do. And everybody on our side, including all our department heads, know that. And they work very diligently to keep it all down. So hopefully, and this, the way that we're doing the casino money this year, I think has really helped that, because we're not taxing capital right now. We're trying not to tax. I mean, of course, we may have to, but that's $3 million that we have dedicated to capital for both the school committee, the schools, and the town. So that really helps.
So it's basically indirect tax relief.
Yeah.
So these
It's-
projects need to be done. There's capital needs throughout both the school and the town. Because they're not embedded in the budget.
Chris, you might want to be on mic.
Oh,
Sorry. The gaming money is basically an indirect tax relief because those projects really need to be done. But for that money, if that money was rolled into the budget, we'd be, potentially it could be also increasing taxes by raising expenditure rates. And so taking it out basically is funding a problem that needs to be done, whether it was for bathrooms for the school or buying vehicles for the town. We needed snow vehicles. It is what it is. I mean, we can't plow snow without them. They can't, service their children without having appropriate facilities. So those expenditures, we're really trying to extract them out of the operating budgets and fund them with the gaming money so that it really is truly an indirect tax relief.
any other questions, any comments?
Chris, you had mentioned $318,000 that we'd have to be
So,
looking at.
and,
What was actually funded with that? Do you have any?
so, the way this works is the SAFER grant would have paid for, we had to hire four firefighters in order to alleviate the excessive overtime that would have been created because of it.
Well, it was also, we had to do that because of the law.
Well, I'm
Which
getting
just-
there.
okay.
So the law had changed prior to the last contract, not the existing contract, the one that predates the contract we just signed, required any municipality that had firefighting staff to bring their staff down to a 48-hour minimum, and you have to pay overtime for everything over that. We were on a 56-hour, 42-hour, I'm sorry, it's 42 hours. We were on a 56-hour, dropped it to 48, so we had a 6-hour differential. In order to make that up, if we continued paying in overtime, it would have been $500,000. Hiring 4 bodies knocked that down to $318,000. The SAFER grant would have paid for the entry level, and that's exactly what the entry level is, between salary and benefits, was $318,000. So we don't know if we're going to eat all that because we've had a number of, people coming, going. So we are tracking it to see where we're going to be, but it was a potential expense against the general fund. It was altogether over 3 years, it was $990,000 that we were looking at as an exposure. But it also saved us somewhere in the tune of a little over $500,000.
But we also knew that after the 3 years, it was going to be ours anyway.
Well, we knew from year one it was going to be ours.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
So,
after the third year.
but we have not, it is now technically into the appropriation if we take it out of the general fund.
Right.
So it just has not hit the tax rate yet, so.
Okay, thank you.
And Chris, I don't know if you know the number off the top of your head or a ballpark, but as I recall, we had a shortfall in the landfill closure fund.
So we do have a significant shortfall. So when we came to go out to bid for the construction of the cap, that bid came in at $11.5 million. We have a firm that's overseeing this project on behalf of us. They're working closely with DEM, the capping company in the town, to ensure that we're getting exactly what we're paying for and ensuring that all the environmental protocols are followed. That was another $500,000, so that's 12. There's some contingency monies in there, probably another $500,000. So we had collected through the page of throw bags about $10 million, $10.2 million. So we were looking at about $1.5 million, $1.6 million. We're still anticipating that we're going to have some revenue this year that will help offset that. So we're probably going to look at taking $1 million for, I'm going to be recommending that we probably take $1 million for the American Recovery monies to offset that, to at least close that account out. But it is what it is. It's, it's a major capital issue that we need to do, we have to do, we're required to do it by law. And that we did utilize the lowest available vendor to do this. And there were a number of reasons why. We thought that we could do something a little bit different with the State's Infrastructure Bank to fund the balance difference and get a credit back from some environmental funds. But it would have required us to take on a 10% minority business component to the entire project, which would have eaten up any credit that we would have gotten back plus. So we stayed where we were, and we're funding the project the way we think it's appropriate. And they've actually done a very, very good job. I can't at all complain about it.
What is pay-as-you-throw generating right now?
So right now, it's probably generating somewhere around $320,000. We were up to $500,000 at one time.
Yeah.
But we're significantly down, and I think a lot of that's because a lot of people just cleaned out their properties.
And recycling, I think recycling is up too,
Yeah, the recycling is up.
so less trash.
So our biggest concern now is, as we get to the tipping fees, we're allocated to a cap based on population. It's arbitrary number in our view. We don't have any history of the tonnage that we've experienced. We'll start to see what it is, but there is fees for going over that. So right now it's $54 a ton. If you exceed it, it's $63 a ton. To exceed another cap level, it gets up to $81 a ton. It gets up pretty quick.
Yeah,
So
and those tipping fees go up every year, they don't go down.
they don't, and they're already scheduled to go up over the next 3 years.
Right. And then that's determined by them,
Yeah.
whatever they want to get.
Any other questions? Anything from the council? School committee? I think that's it then, right?
Yeah, we also had posted for our agenda discussion of capital stuff. I mean,
I think you can still do that with us. It's not on ours.
okay.
So, yes, we can still, because this is just a discussion.
Yep.
Yes, so,
Okay.
so you can,
It's a workshop.
this is something you all might want to hear
Yeah,
too.
so, you know, as Denise was talking about, you know, the town council allocated $3 million of the casino money, $2 million to the schools, $1 million to the town from last year's money for capital projects. We just wanted to start the discussion where you think we are longer term in terms of other capital projects overall, and, you know, do we want to continue, primarily, do we want to continue this approach of using casino money as a pay-as-you-go, or are there longer-term things that you guys feel the town needs, and you want to explore other ways of funding that? Like a bond.
Like a joint bond. I think that's something in the future, just to, that we really do have to have a meeting and discussion on that. We also know, we're also in the middle of writing the ordinance, that, I don't know if you all know this, but they're getting money back for everything we've allocated, and some, 30%?
Depends on
Depends
what
on
it
the
is, but it's
Categories.
anywhere between 30 and 40%. And let me kind of gloss this a little bit. So there are various stages to this whole thing. One is we have to submit to RIDE a 5-year plan for work that we think the school needs. Now, that has in no way tied to any kind of revenue. It's just sort of, this is what we think it needs. We're also required to show a certain amount of effort at maintenance of the infrastructure, and that includes a lot of different things. So like the, custodial staff salary goes into that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you have to show that the town is actually making expenditures in it. Then if there is actually an ability to pay for something, you want to go through this process where you submit, and I'm going to get the terminology wrong, but you basically submit a letter of intent that you're going to then submit a more detailed plan of something that you want to do over some course of time. Both the 5-year plan and that submission process is what actually, that the projects are in that, actually allows the reimbursement. And then the reimbursement is anywhere from 35 to 40%, and that has to do with, sort of every town gets assigned a rate, but it has to do with sort of the perceived wealth of the community and a lot of other things. Again, we're between 35 and 40%. We get 35% for sort of almost anything that's in our 5-year plan. When you start to add things like health and safety or, other qualifiers to the project that you're doing that are perceived as higher value by the Rhode Island Department of Education, that's when you get these higher reimbursement rates. So anyway, so you have your 5-year plan, and then you have submissions that you can make twice a year in order to get approval to go ahead with a project. When you make that, the second stage of that submission process, that's when you actually have to declare how you're going to fund it, whether it's going to be through appropriated capital or a bond or, I don't know, money that you find at the end of a rainbow, something like that. But you have to sort of declare, you really, realistically, you declare you're going to fund it through a capital allocation or through a bond. And so the next submission date is actually February 15th. We're not going to make a submission this February, but we'll probably make a submission September, depending on how much, depending on this budget process, as well as the allocation of the casino money this go-around. The things that we have already both approved through the 5-year plan as well as what's called a stage 2 submission are the locker rooms.
Everything else, we don't have anything else in a state, we don't have anything else through the stage 2 right now that, kind of isn't being done yet. The bathrooms, sort of the renovation in 2018, 19, 17, 18, 19, that was all before this new process. And that was all bonded. And so that's some of the money that's coming back from RIDE is based on that. That was all health and safety stuff. So the reimbursement rate should be pretty good, at least for Tiverton. If you talk about, Providence gets like 80% back. It's sort of ridiculous, but that's our government, our state. So, anyway.
So
Yep.
what I was talking about is we're working on an ordinance for all that money that they get back is going to go into a special account as the school's capital account also. So because we're investing in the schools and we're getting money from RIDE, the council thought it was very fair to put it in a restricted account. So the school will have that money to look at also. So that's what I was talking about. So anything that we give them for safety or whatever we've been doing and we've been working together, they're getting reimbursements.
That's not bonded.
That's not bonded. That's not bonded.
Yeah.
So right now, our lawyer is working on that, and we know that that's going to happen, which we think is fair.
Well, we're on the building committee, actually, some of us that are here. And we know that, if you spend $1 million with 30% back, you're going to get $300,000 back. That goes towards another project, and that's what
And
we've been
that's-
doing.
And then you kind of continue.
Because if we didn't do
iterative.
that, it would just go in the general fund.
Yeah,
But,
yeah,
yes.
absolutely. And it's worked. It's worked. I think it's working.
Well, we don't, so far, the money isn't, so the reimbursement so far is still going just to the general fund right now.
Until we do this ordinance, and then. we'll pull it.
Okay,
Right.
then we'll pull it back out.
We
So
can't-
it
yes.
would, so
Yes.
depending on, kind of as it is allocated and spent and what ordinance is in effect at the time, and, so the $2 million, so the $2 million was allocated for the bathrooms. The town should receive, should see $800,000 from that, right? So, yeah, and how that money is then used, if it's used for additional expenditures as, the maintenance of effort for the infrastructure of the schools, then you get 40% back again. It's not 40% of $2 million, it's 40% of 800,000.
600,000,
So eventually it kind of goes down to zero, I guess.
But we are working on, like Mike was supposed to present it at this meeting. Promises me he'll have it at the next, so.
Very good.
It's not like it's on the back burner. It's gonna happen. We have a lot going on, you can imagine.
Yeah.
So, I've made that a priority for him. Anything else?
Got a question?
Yeah, I guess I was just curious about the 30-40% reimbursement.
Yeah, you might,
And so
you might want to turn on the.
I'm vaguely familiar with the RIDE submission process, and so it sounds as though, and I'm sorry, I'm new to this. I'm
It's
not
okay.
really sure where the capital, plan essentially was for the school district and how that's laying out. But is there an interest in the next phase submission? Are you looking to try to do a higher reimbursement rate based on projects? Because isn't it point submission based on like the types of projects you're getting, the reimbursement rate can increase?
It can, so there are qualifiers to the project. So, health and safety being the primary one, and there's some other ones that I just can't think of off the top of my head. Almost everything we have submitted has been high, just because we've been mostly doing health and safety things, because that's what's been most urgent.
Bathrooms.
Yeah, well, but even all the stuff like, the ceiling tiles, the lights, draft walls, there's a lot of other stuff that was in the project that was completed in 2019, whenever it was, 2019, must have been 2019. Anyway, so most of, at least the time that I've been on the school committee, which is now 10 years, which is a little scary, everything has been health and safety stuff. So it's been a higher reimbursement rate, yeah.
Could we get a copy of the recent capital plan or where the phase submissions are?
Yeah,
have a public
well, yeah,
document somewhere?
could
sure
you?
you-
Absolutely. I mean, they're public documents. But what I would do, because the superintendent's office is the keeper of records, is make a, request to Amy or Peter, this is what I would like to see. There's a lot of stuff, so, it depends on what you want. If you want, so.
It'd be great to see the 5-year plan, as
Yeah,
you're
okay.
mentioning, so you have a sense of
Yep.
like what projects are completed versus what's in the pipeline, where the school district is considering for the next
Yeah.
submission, what kind of reimbursement you're seeking through that process.
Yep. And, I'm sure everybody has lots of time to attend even more meetings on their hands. But
I'm
coming.
recently retired, so who knows?
You're recently retired
I'm joking. I'm
at the age of what, 23? No,
Thank you. I'll take that.
So, if you are recently retired and have nothing better to do, the building committee meetings, which is actually where you'd sort of get a lot of the detail of this, are open meetings.
Great.
So the next one is on the 24th. They're usually the second Tuesday at 5 here.
Okay, thank you.
Is that right?
What?
Huh?
Is that right? Dave's on there, right?
Dave's on it, yeah.
Dave, is that right?
Yeah, so is Mike.
Mike,
So
Deb,
is Deb. There's a whole bunch of them.
there's a few
Yeah,
of us.
there's a bunch of people on it.
Diane,
Diane's on it.
Yeah.
Dave and Mike are on it.
During the time, free time.
Deb Janik's on it.
you're on it?
I'm on it.
You're on it.
So, but they, you would come up to speed pretty quickly going to some of those meetings. You would get a lot of insight into the whole process.
All right. We'll see you next Thursday
See us next Thursday.
at 7 o'clock, and you're all welcome to attend that also. And we'll be discussing APRA and casino.
All right.
All right, I'd like a motion to adjourn. Motion been made second. All those in favor? Unanimous.
We're actually going to have one other item.
Without us?
Yeah, but just us.
Okay.
I mean, yeah,
That's fine.
yeah, it's in public,
That'll be a
so
lot of people.
you are welcome to stay.
All in
It's
favor?
it's not an
We're
executive, so.
unanimous? Thank you.
So this is a copy.
Bye, everyone.
Not yet, no. So I've been talking to Chris
Oh,
about scheduling.
Probably Joan.
I know, that's trying to catch everybody. So I've been communicating with Chris, and what I'll do is I'm gonna get the department heads set up, but as you heard the discussion, we're gonna try and tie this, and then they have their meetings
so you get the.
with the town council, so they'll know
Good to
what
see you.
to go forward.
See you soon, thank you.
You can go to theirs also.
So
Because sometimes they won't say stuff to them that they will to us.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So we'll get them independent
Okay.
of the council.
That's why I said it, we have them separately, because
Okay.
they tend to tell us more than.
Yeah, because we're the citizens who can advocate.
Right.
You'll be seeing a lot of it the next couple of weeks.
They're dealing with their boss, and
So
his
Peter sent this to us on Friday. It's basically just kind of a rehash of a letter he sent after we voted the numbers, whenever that was.
About the reimbursement rate, because yes, in Providence, we
Yes?
just got it now.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But that's because we had a lease.
And he sent it as a, no, he sent it as an attachment to us.
Listen, I'm going to abstain from next week. Item that you could see, so it's different, the schools need more, and we're not getting more information from the building committee. I just don't know why that is.
well, we don't know if it was married.
Oh, well, it was really just, I wanted to know if you guys wanted to send it or not.
He's been very.
You don't want to send?
Mario Carino?
I don't know. But he's been very helpful.
Yeah.
Conversation back
What we can apply for, what we can expect from reimbursement.
Okay.
He's kind of skewed the committee.
Yeah, I don't think he did, I don't think he did send
To
it.
really get us a better reimbursement.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm looking now.
So,
That number that they're
Meeting packages, what I've asked for on several occasions.
so we're in that range, so doesn't our proceed well.
Well, and also, the buildings are probably.
I don't have it.
No, I would be surprised.
Okay. Well, then, are you sure? Okay, I'll have to, I can look in mine too.
60 years old.
All right, well then, I mean, that's the answer then. I'm looking for it. We don't have to vote. We had on the agenda to vote. No possible vote because I wanted to be able to exercise the option if that was the committee's pleasure.
I don't see it.
All right, let me get into my email then.